A compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
The horse from Kyzylzhar. The wood is softly crackling in the fireplace, the Christmas tree is shimmering with tinsel, and pages are rustling. A quiet family evening, and the fairy tale told by the father is especially magical. He knows it by heart. He wrote it himself. Only 12 hands high, with 2 little humps upon his back, ears a yard long, eyes coal-black. Papa, how did you come up with such a funny humpbacked horse? Tobolsk, 19th century 60s, sooner said than done. He describes the fair exactly as if it was the Kyzyl-Zhar fair. Now, this image of the humpback horse was born in the childhood of Pyotr Yershov. The humpback horse helps with advice, magic advice to his master. Chapter 1. And here is the fair before you. Golden bridle, loosely swinging, see the stallion, sunward winging, far below him. Wait, this is the prelude to what I shall be telling you. It's possible that if he had not existed, the fairy tale about the humpback horse would not exist. It all started with Ablai Khan. We found the correspondence between Ablai Khan with the head of the Russian administration and with the governors. And I must say that he was the initiator of the organization, already the official organization of trade between the Kazakh Khanate and Russia. By my request and request of my people, I asked to allow trade in Ishim in the Petropavlovsk fortress. From Ablai Khan's letter to Neplyov, governor of Orenburg. In 1759, on the order of Ablai Khan, the Petropavlovsk fair was opened. It was exactly 7 years after the Petropavlovsk fortress was built.
Ровно через 7 лет после того, как, собственно, Петропавловскую крепость создали.
The request was granted, the fair was established, and the military fortress became an important trade and economic center. Ablai Khan also traded with his livestock there. Here is the road of Ablai Khan. It goes through Tayinshi in the Akayin district. Here they had stock stands. The first Kyzyl-Zhar fair was held on December the 22nd in 1759 in the compound, near the fortress on the bank of the Ishim River. And since then, it has been held every year in summer and winter. Merchants from Bukhara and Khiva came here later on, and so that's what I think Ershov will write his fairy tales about. A caravan is coming closer to the fortress with herds of horses, sheep, carts loaded with sheepskins, while the drumbeat is heard. This is the signal for merchants to sell their goods. At the entrance to the fair, the guards stand, where traders can enter the trade compound. Everyone who trades tries to grab who they like and pull them into their shop. Here, not forced by anyone, they sit and calmly talk a few hours about sales and purchases. To persuade a foreigner to trade, you need to treat him well. From the Geographical Dictionary of the Russian State for 1807. Mainly it was barter trade. Animals were exchanged for samovars, kettles and materials. The unit of trade was a 1-year-old sheep. Then the price was compiled, and for example, let's say a pound of tea cost a half sheep. A wooden dish for beshpamak cost 1 sheep. Large kettle cost 5 sheep. The most expensive was a samovar, which cost 20. There was also another currency. For example, 7 yards of red cloth cost 1 skin of a horse. 3 bolts of silk cost 1 fur. Caravans traveled many kilometers bringing goods from far. Nowhere else were there more colorful, brighter or expensive fabrics. And as the commander, a samovar is standing, shining in the sun.
Самовар стоит, блещет на солнце, и как жар горит.
By the early 19th century, there were more than 1,000 residents in Petropavlovsk. They already had stone houses, schools, a doctor, post office, and a police station, and even a community garden. The Church of St. Peter and Paul and the first stone mosque in the Kazakh steppe, built with public money, was called Kyzyl-Zhar, and was an imposing fortress, hexagonal in shape, standing on a hill. Those buildings were not preserved to the present day. Chapter 2. The tale comes next. Indeed, the 4-year-old Peter seems to have appeared in the fairy tale as early as 1819. Ershov was born in a small village called Bezrukovo, which did not even have a church. Suddenly, his father was appointed to the Petropavlovsk fortress, appointed as a police officer. The main responsibility of Commissioner Ershov was the collection of fees and duties for the state and to keep order, just like in a fairy tale. Ahoy, honest merchants there, open up and sell your ware. And you watchmen, stay you near, guard their stalls an eye and ear, sharp maintaining strictest order, preventing riots and disorder. See no rogue, however sly, who fools folk with a honeyed lie. So Peter saw it all. His father was a police officer, and all the merchants doffed their hats to him. Most likely, Pavel managed his responsibilities very well. He was promoted in Petropavlovsk to police captain, another fact of Pavel Ershov's life. During the Patriarchal War of 1812, Pavel donated 150 rubles to the army, although he was not rich. He gave a good example as a citizen and patriot of the motherland. For his contribution to the defeat of the enemy, he was presented with the award of a commemorative medal, which was given in Petropavlovsk in 1819. Excerpt from the book by Vladimir Shesterikov, Petropavlovsk and the Fate of the Great Fairy Tale. By the way, the poet's grandfather, Lieutenant Ershov, trained recruits in the Dragoon Regiment of the Petropavlovsk fortress. After a small, quiet village, the loud, fair city is a great discovery for the little boy. Bells, towers, and strange dialects. And here's little Peter on the bridge, which was already mentioned, as he watches the people bargaining, men in turbans, sunshine covers bargaining, and camels shaking their huge humps.
Солнце светит весело, освещает торг, и верблюд качает свой огромный горб.
He was amazed by the abundance of goods at the fairs, which he certainly visited. He was amazed by the strange wild horses.
Кони, горячие скакуны.
Meanwhile, with his guards, the mayor halted at the fair. They say that the boy liked the yard with the horses and camels the most. And if you remember, there was a young mare with eyes ablaze with an angry glow, like an arrow from its bow. They sold horses, and you needed to sit on the wild horses and hold the tail or mane bareback. And here, on the bank of the Ishim, those horse traders were conducted. And so he created a half horse and a half camel. Undersized horses could also be there. Perhaps there were some young camels in the images that he also remembered. A toy humpback horse, only 12 hands high, with 2 little humps upon his back, ears a yard long. However, it is not that small, about 80 centimeters at the shoulder, the height of a small donkey. As a magic symbol of true friendship, the horse helps a man in many fairy tales. It has magical powers. It can cover a 7-day route in only an hour and will definitely participate in battle, helping his rider, assisting his hero with wise advice. There are only a few examples. A shortfall from Norwegian story, Sivka Burka from the Russian one, and the fast horse Tustuk, which is a Kazakh version. Well, a lot of them if you look at it. For example, the Kazakh epic art or ancient tales like Etorgu, Apamush, Batur, Koblandy Batyr and many others. Along with the main character, for example, Koblandy Batyr, there's always the image of a horse.
Всегда существует образ скакуна.
The humpbacked horse neighed and shook his head. "Do not fret, Ivan," he said. "Yes, your loss is great, I know, but I'll help you overcome your woe." It's known that the writer's favorite book was 1001 Nights. He liked the Oriental motives in general. Also, they took place in the story about the humpbacked horse. The name of the Tsar is Sultan. Ivan wears malachi, and one talks about shaitan. We can name a lot of examples. We can't call it a European fairy tale. Europe and Asia are mixed here. Even the words that Pyotr Yershov uses are really just taken from folklore and from real life. The fairy tale is imagined by a child and written by a young man as a writer's friend from St. Petersburg. For 3, and according to other sources, 4 years, Peter Ershov lived in Petropavlovsk, then Omsk, Tobolsk, and finally St. Petersburg. It's necessary to note that fairs like Kyzylzhar were not held there. Chapter 3. What a lovely fairy tale. An architectural composition in the Baroque style, 12 individual buildings were to symbolize the independence and decision-making of each of the boards, but because these buildings were connected, it indicates that there was also, or had to be, a relationship with the government.
Говорила о том, что существует и должна существовать взаимосвязь в системе государственного управления.
1834, St. Petersburg University. Salaries to deans were increased. Nikolai Gogol was appointed professor, lecturer Pletiv rose to the chair, and instead of a lengthy lecture on public administration and local literature, he began to read a fairy tale about the adventures of a strange animal. Once again my tale proceeds of Ivan and of his deeds, of the little fallow hay, talking horse so wise and gay. Listeners can easily be charmed by the lightness of the poem. Still unaware that the author is here, he is shy, their classmate sitting in the back. By his own admission, he was sitting and dying with embarrassment. Only close friends of Peter knew that he wrote the fairy tale during boring university lectures. They can be real memories from childhood, especially the fact that the father was riding a horse, talking to Asians and knew their language. 2 humped camels, donkeys, clothing, exotic outfits of merchants who traded at fairs. All this was mixed in the child's imagination and later served to create an image of the humpbacked horse.
Детское воображение и в дальнейшем послужило для создания образа конька-горбунка.
By the way, according to some sources, the humpbacked horse was the author's reference work on the subject of folk art. The Library for Reading was happy to meet with due honor and take on their pages with such an excellent poetic experience as the humpbacked horse by Mr. Ershov, who's still graduating from university. From the preface to the tale. He created a famous fairy tale at only 19 years of age. Such a huge success at such a young age. Zhukovsky praised it and Pushkin blessed it. Actually, thanks to Alexander Sergeyevich, the tale came out. That same Professor Pletnev asked the poet to help his student, who was left without means after his father's death. They say that Alexander Pushkin hired him to rewrite his poems, and Ershov showed him his tale. The poet read the tale, corrected it, and joked that he must leave his style of writing. Pushkin said that he intended to promote the publication of the tale with illustrations and distribute it for a cheap price in a huge number of copies. From the book Peter Yershov by Andrei Yaroslavstev. However, the colorful publication did not see print. Pushkin was killed in a duel. Ershov went to teach in Tobolsk. 9 years after the first publication of the tale, it was banned. They did not like the stupid king, the mayor wasn't good, and in general, what was this powerful whale who swallows ships? Epilogue. And harness the memories from childhood. Manuscripts autographed by Pushkin did not survive. Generally, no draft was saved to this day. In recognition of Ershov, I was in a terrible melancholy and burned a lot. Memories about Petropavlovsk were also lost. Only the experience of childhood was left, captured in a fairy tale. Vladimir Shestiryakov describes the Petropavlovsk fair. Camels roar, colors of bazaars, horses dancing. No wonder we believe that Yershov's tale was born here. And it lived its own life. It was reprinted 100 times. That's okay, the humpbacked horse will take me out, Yershov liked to say. Firewood in the fireplace, Christmas trees and fairy tales about a toy humpback horse. Whatever you do, part not with a little steed, though you may be in direst need, not for gold nor silken raiment, nor for a lucky charm in payment. A faithful friend to you he'll be, wherever you go on land or sea.